Okay, here we are. Another edition of What the Heck Jimmy Thinks. Turn the music down a little bit. I'll leave it going like we're in a doctor's office or something. So if I take a breath, you'll hear a little of epidemics in the background. And they're copyright-free music. Yep. Academic. Royalty-free music. Okay, so I've heard from Tesla. I've asked some questions. The main question is about the new configuration of autopilot having they've taken radar out of the sensor array. They have, I believe, 8 cameras surrounding the car and 12 medium-range ultrasonic sensors that run all the way around the car. There's 12 of them, and they reach out about 15 feet all the way around the car, which is like a full traffic lane, so that if another car encroaches within a 15-foot range around the car, the ultrasonic sensors will notice that car and keep track of it along with the cameras. And if it gets too close, the Tesla will swerve out of the way and either decelerate or accelerate to get out of the way. The reason why they removed the radar is that, that data is accumulated in the neural network, and they've studied that very carefully in relation to the data that all the other sensors are delivering to the neural net. And more often than not, the radar data conflicts with the visual data, coming up with errors. So Tesla figured, well, it's probably worthwhile to eliminate the radar because it's creating adverse data that's incorrect, which then conflicts with the visual data from the cameras. So they figured, well, it's more often than not that it's creating a problem with the neural net, so they just eliminated it. So rather than having the software continually eliminating the radar data because it conflicts with what the car can actually see with the cameras, they figured, well, might as well get rid of it because it's not helping. So my additional editorial on that is that the autopilot software, in the way in which it utilizes the visual data from the cameras, has become so fine-tuned that it has essentially exceeded the reason for having the radar. So Musk made a decision about 6 weeks ago that starting in May, all Model Y and Model 3 cars would be built without the radar, and the going forward. And the reason for that is, why did they pick those two models? Because they're the biggest selling cars by far, by a factor of 3. So therefore, they would get a lot more data streaming into the Fremont, California servers. Building this, continually building this huge neural network. And that way they can use that data to further refine the autopilot, and eventually the Model X's and the Model S, like Sam, will eventually not have radar built into it either, as the full service, or the autopilot itself, doesn't need the radar, because the camera data is that accurate. The ultimate question is that how about in severe weather, bad weather? Now, the autopilot requires that you have the windshield wipers set to automatic, and the the head beams set to auto dimming mode. So you have automatic headlights and automatic washers. And the reason for that is that now that they're relying on the cameras, they want to make sure they have enough light, and they want to make sure that I was going to call them whipper shoppers. When I was a kid, I used to call windshield wipers whipper shoppers. Couldn't quite get that word out. So I was saying the whipper shoppers have to be set to automatic. Remember, the cameras are inside in the front. There are 3 cameras in the front. 2 medium range cameras and 1 wide angle camera. So between those 3 cameras, that's what the data comes from the front of the car. There's also a camera on the left side and the right side in the column. So that's 3, 4, 5. And there are 3 cameras in the back. 1 straight back and 2 angled. So I believe there's 8 cameras and 12 ultrasonic sensors. Okay, so that's as far as my account is concerned, I'm ready for delivery on in 50 hours, Friday at noon. The hours are counting down. Daniel is coming over with his car with Brennan in it, and we're going to they're going to drive me to the Tesla place with Marilyn. We need Marilyn, Jim, and their driver's licenses at noon. So we're going to leave here at 11:15. That should get us there 10 or 15 minutes early. I understand the whole process takes about an hour, and 45 minutes of that is everybody walking around the car to see if things line up correctly, and the stuff inside works, and we can get the system paired with the phones. And I want to get a couple of extra cards. They give you 2 cards. I want 4, because I want 1 card in my wallet, 1 card in Marilyn's wallet, and in the glove box, and in maybe Marilyn's purse, you have another card, which you would give to, I'm getting phone calls coming in. It comes through on the iPad. Anyway, interrupts the music, and you hear a little ring, I guess, in the background. Anyway, so we want to get 4 cards. I have my little black bag here. My black bag, and what's in my little black bag, if you can hear me, is, of course, the charging plug. It looks like your standard dryer plug. And then I have this is an envelope that usually houses a license plate, but I have the 2 screws and a screwdriver to attach our FAU tag in. Microphone picks up that sound pretty good, huh? I bought a set of recommended front mud flaps, and the connecting thingies. I think I'll give that to Daniel or Brennan to install on the car while we're inside signing paperwork. And then, of course, I have my the Florida tag, which I want signed to this car, because we sold the what do you call it, the Hondas, paid off the leases, came up with a little extra money. This is our Tesla order agreement, which I printed all that stuff out and read it. It's all good. And so that's our. Whoops, put this in here. That's our little goodie bag. I have updated insurance. So we're, just tie a knot in that sucker. So we're ready to fly like an eagle on Friday. I don't think there's anything else to put in here. I have in the delivery, on Friday's delivery, which won't be in time for the picking up of the car, but they'll be delivered Friday sometime by FedEx. The mats that go on the driver's side and the passenger side, the mats that go across the second row of seats, and the big mat that goes over the hatchback area. You don't really have a trunk, you have a floorboard. So there's a mat that goes on top of that, so that everything stays nice and clean, and you can hose that off. Easy to vacuum off when you go through a car wash. So that's it. So I've read, and I'll show you. Let's see. Command 2. There you go. So this is. I'll go here. This is. The flip. They call this app called Flipboard, and it works on an iPad or it works on a phone. And it has, headline stories here: women sentenced to federal prison. So, I have these different things, and you can flip on it. And then I hit for you. And this is news sources that I've picked I've had this for 4 or 5 years. And so you can see, there you go, so you can see me in the corner. And then you got the flip and a bigger, so you can see just about the whole screen here. So when you look at the stories that are going on, watch this. We can go back, and we get hit Tesla Model Y, since we're talking about Teslas, and they have they have a Tesla being built in Germany, and Tesla Giga Berlin starts testing Model Y production lines. So this is the brand new plant in Germany, and it's being built at the same time that Tesla's building another plant in I think it's Austin, Texas. And every time they build a new plant, they improve, the automation. It's about 94% automated at this time, and 6% non-automated. So, so I think what's going to happen, since you got SpaceX still in California, but you have a SpaceX big factory and so forth in Texas. They have their new Model 3, Model Y plant being built. I guess all 4 cars will be built there. And then the presumption is they're going to pull out of California with their factory and move all the robots over to, their next installation. I mean, the robotics is just, unbelievable. He wants to have the precision down to, and all that's software driven, right? So, computers and software control, 94% of the entire production of these cars. So you basically have a huge machine building a machine. So that's how Elon Musk looks at it, and that's how he explains it, that their factories are basically a huge machine that builds machines, the machines being the cars. So expanding, there's a view of, the production facility in Germany. So you can see these big robots. They've got big ones, they got little ones. And whatever it takes to move the parts and to weld the pieces together. There's lots of different ways of attaching metal to metal, different kind of welding processes. And the robotic arms contain either high voltage or, glue, whatever the, the program calls for as the car that moves through. I think the car from start to finish takes 5 days from the time, the raw shell is built and a VIN number is assigned, and it takes 5 days for it to go through the production line and come out, the end painted to the specification of the person that bought the car. I mean, everything is like pre-sold. They don't just build cars and put them on a lot and hope they sell. Everything is computer driven. We designed the car that we wanted. They don't have a lot of selections. You got 4 colors of paint, not 10, you got 4. And the interior is black or white. Now, I understand that they're going to come out with a cream color for their Model S's and Model X's in their production line. So they'll have one extra interior color, a cream, which is like a light brown, a tan, leathery kind of look. And you'll be able to get a tan, leathery seats and sides and so forth. So we can't forget the Tesla truck that's going to be built, I believe, also in Texas, and that'll go into production in 2022. So that's that's the news. Tasmanian, you see that up in the corner. That's the company that I bought the floor mats through. So they're writing this article. So here's a story of they're testing the car, the Model Y without the radar, and how it responds to, they have this blow up, like punching bag kind of thing. It stands up about 5 feet tall, and they put it in the middle of a road, a closed road in the cul-de-sac, and they go right for the dummy, with the radar on, with it off, with the lights, all the different kinds of testing scenarios. And the autopilot works, perfectly. It brings the car to a full stop right in front of the dummy, and with you not having to do anything. So if you got your foot on the accelerator pedal, and this dummy is in the middle of the road, the car is going to automatically slow down regardless of the position of your foot, which is pretty cool. If you don't have the autopilot on, the emergency braking is not really working that well yet. So they're going to have to, work on that. It's a constant, it's like having an iPhone with wheels on it. And they download the improved software so that these things, as they get tested and delivered to Fremont, California, they improve the software and then send it into your car. So how do they send it into the car? Well, every car has a built-in AT&T LTE service, which is like, a G4 service. It's not the G5, it's the G4 or L4. So when your car is so the car has, like, in a sense, a cell phone in your car that operates 24/7. Now it's not a phone, so it has a data line, and it connects into the AT&T network as you're driving the car all over the place. The antenna is hidden in the body of the car. It doesn't have a probing antenna sitting up that can get knocked off or something or other. It's embedded in the car somewhere. I don't know where the antenna is. It's a good question. I'll find out. But that works 24/7. So when you turn off the car at night, off is a different kind of word with a Tesla. It means that the car is still. It's braked. You got it in park. It can be sitting there being charged or not. I got the little plug so I can charge it. And there's a limited use parking spot that's in the fourth level of the garage that has a 50 amp 230 volt circuit, which means that if my car was empty, I could plug it in, and over 7 hours it would fill it up. Charge the batteries. And it charges at the rate of 35 miles an hour. So every hour, 35 miles range is put into the batteries. Now the battery pack holds 310 26 miles of range. Now they don't want you to use the bottom 5%, and they don't want you to charge past 95%. So you lose because of those. And when you drive into a gas station, you don't go in there with a totally empty tank. There's always something in there. You don't coast in on fumes, so to speak. And with an electric car and the limited amount of, there are 180,000 gas stations in the United States, North America. And there are only 40,000 places to charge your car. But 75% of that 40,000, so only about 10 or 12,000 fueling stations that would fuel a Tesla car can charge at the rate of 35 miles per hour. So if you went to a luncheon, for example, and that lasted, let's say, an hour and a half or two, it'd put 70 miles worth of range in your car if you needed, to worry about that to get back to your home parking place. Anyway, so my experience is that we use with the Hondas, both Hondas that we had, over 4 years each. Both cars had 20,000 miles with 20,000 miles with 4 years of driving. So that's 5,000 miles a year. So you can divide that by 365, and then you can drive that. Here, I'll do it right here. I got a calculator. So if you got 5,000 miles, which you can see the calculator on the screen, there you go. So let's divide that by 365. So that's on average of 14 miles a day. Oh boy, we're really big. That's crazy. Let me do that again just to be sure. So we get 5,000. And let's divide that by 12 to get months. So that's 400 miles a month. So on average, that is 30.5 days in an average month. Because remember, you got February and you got some 30 days and all that. So yeah, there you go. You end up back at the 13 months. So, if you have a car that so 5,000 divided by 12. No, let's divide it by 52. So that's how many. All right, so 100 miles a week. I'll round it up, 100 miles a week. So if I've got a 326 mile range, and I can only use times 0.9, because they don't want me to use the top 5%, and they don't want me to discharge below the bottom 5%. The car will give you an alarm. So our battery, we would only have 293 miles of range. So if I divide that by the 14 miles a day we are, we got basically 20 days worth of electricity. In case you go on a trip or something or other, but just diddling around town, going back and forth to work, and just going to the grocery store and so forth. A 300 mile range battery is, more than 2 weeks worth of supply of, so it's not like you're running to the charger. You only have to plug in, tops every 2 weeks, once a week, once every other week. So the charging, and they do have, Tesla has supercharging stations within 5 miles of where we live. On Hillsborough and I-95, there's a Home Depot. Well, right on the other side of the street of that Home Depot is 10 or 12 superchargers, charging spots. So you can just plug in there. Now that charges at the rate of I think it puts 170 miles worth of range in 30 minutes. So, in 40 minutes, you can go in there with an empty car and I'll fill it up. So, that's quite amazing. So it costs the electric charge, in case you're interested, is about 3 1/3 cents per mile. So, a 300 mile battery, at 3 1/3 cents is about $11. So you have a fill up, it costs you $11. So just imagine you go to Miami, that's 50 miles. You drive back, that's 100 miles. At the, so it costs you, $1.50 to go to Miami. That's just like crazy. In gasoline, it would be like three or four times that. And with our energy situation, we're probably gas is going to go up, to $3.75 a gallon. It's over $3 now, so they project it to go up another 20 or 25% because our current president, has cut off supplies. We were energy independent for the last 2 years of the Biden administration. We didn't need to get oil from anybody other than our normal sources like Canada. We get 42% of our energy needs are supplied by Canada, which most people don't realize. That we think it's only 8 or 9% comes from Saudi Arabia, but with the amount of with the millions of gallons of crude and refined petroleum product that this country uses every day. You cut off a source like Saudi Arabia, it's almost like the electric grid. There's a balance of supply and demand with all these sources of, petroleum that coming in from different countries. Saudi Arabia being one of them, Iraq being another one, and like I said, Canada is supplying a little less than half of all our petroleum needs. That's why the Keystone Pipeline was so crucial, and it's almost fully built. It's just a small little link. It takes about 6 months to finish, and Biden turned off the permits to not, just as a stupid campaign promise, and it cost about 40,000 jobs because it's 11,000 people that actually are working on the pipeline, but there's another 30,000 behind that are users of that fuel and distribution, and it's millions of gallons an hour that go through that pipeline. So it was like a campaign promise. I'm going to turn off the pipeline. I mean, how stupid is that? So we're still going to get the fuel from Canada. It's just going to flow by train and by truck. So you got, millions of trucks driving through little cities all over the United States delivering petroleum. It gets in accidents, spills, catch on fire, whatever. It's 35 times, when you compare the amount of oil that leaks out of trucks because of accidents and breakdowns and whatever, and compare it with the amount of fuel that leaks in a pipeline, it's a factor of 35 times more petroleum is leaked out of train cars and trucks because of accidents and so forth. You know, those tankers hold 44,000 gallons of either petroleum or refined product. You know, a lot of the trucks that service gas stations, that 40,000 gallon truck is divided into 3 compartments. So it has the diesel fuel, the high test, and the medium test fuel. Or it could be divided into 4 compartments. You know, housing the 3 different grades of gasoline, which is called in the chemistry world isooctane. And then you got the diesel fuel, which is, you know, very similar to what's used in airplanes. Jet fuel number 2 is more in the line with kerosene. You know, so it's a little more, has a little more of a higher level aromatic hydrocarbon than diesel. Diesel is a very low, it's almost like an oil. It's like a real super light grade oil. And that was designed to be pumped into fuel tanks in farming areas. The diesel engine was originally designed in Germany for the agronomic society. So they could have, you know, a whole winter's worth of fuel in a tank around the barn, which they could pump into their tractors and so forth to run, you know, the farming equipment. And that tank can be used over, you know, 6-month period of time. So it, you know, get them through all summer or all winter. You know, so they only need to fill up that tank maybe once or twice a year. And the fuel is a low-level aromatic hydrocarbon, which means that when you open the tank, there's not a lot of fumes that come out. So what's the fumes? The fumes would be, if there were any, the higher level aromatic in the hydrocarbon leaving the tank. So that means that the fuel that's remaining doesn't have, you know, some of those higher level, you know, octane type fuel. So that's why they created diesel fuel in the diesel engine, because it doesn't have a lot of aromatic hydrocarbons. Meaning when you open up the tank, there's not a, you know, a flow of gaseous coming out of the tank. You can't fill up a tank in the backside of your barn with gasoline and be able to run your car, you know, past about 2 months. Because every time you open up that tank, the high-level aromatics just come right out of the opening. You know, you can just smell these fumes. Well, the fumes is the higher level of the hydrocarbon that has a faster burning rate, you know, for the internal combustion engine. And it, you know, the internal combustion engine and the carburetor are matched to the gasoline that's in your, you know, at the gas pump, so to speak. So some cars actually need the high test, which has more aromatic hydrocarbons than the lower test, which most, you know, passenger cars use. You know, racing cars and Ferraris and Maseratis, they got to have the high test. Now, people can put high test in their low test cars, you know, like a typical telemarketer. No, thank you. So, anyway, So there are 180,000 gas stations, and some of the gas stations are now pulling out one of their gasoline pumps and putting in superchargers. So there's a plug called a CDM Catamo. Catamo is a standard plug. It's really a big plug that plugs in, the Nissans and a variety of other electric cars. Tesla has their own nozzle, of course. So when you get your car in the trunk, is an adapter which you put on the Catamo, and then plug that into the Tesla socket. So they have an adapter because a lot of the fueling stations are not using the Tesla nozzle. They're using a industry standard nozzle. And of course, Tesla is kind of like Apple. They have their own plugs. So that's So I think there are 14,000 around the country, 14,000 fueling spots with superchargers. So you can literally drive, New York to Miami or New York to California, California to New York. They have the supercharger network set up. So you can basically go, from South Florida to Chicago, or South Florida to New York, or South Florida to Atlanta, or a bunch of other. I mean, they have these 10 to 12,000 superchargers set up. You can see little red dots all over the map. And if you put in, if you're going on a trip and you put in, I want to go to, some address in northwestern Atlanta, for example. When it charts out the route, it shows you where all the supercharger stations are. It reads your state of charge in your battery, and it shows how far you can go before you need to get a fill up, so to speak. And it'll take you, right to the supercharger. So you don't have to worry about, where they are or whatever. You just, when you map your course on where you're going, you put in, the address of where you're going. It maps it, and it doesn't have to be a principal city. And, they put the stations near highways, and, they're almost never more than a mile off a main highway. And they try to have the supercharger station, near recreation, coffee shops, food stores, so forth, so that when you're charging your car and you go in and have lunch, for example, or 3 p.m. coffee and a snack, or whatever your driving situation is, they'll have that supercharger station planted right near places where you can dine. Not necessarily fine dining, but where you can dine, have a decent lunch. And then, of course, your phone, which is linked to your car, you can look at the Tesla app, and it'll show you, what your progress of your charging is. So if you're sitting there having lunch, and you can see that, that you're going to be full, and it tells you you're going to be full in 18 minutes, you got 18 minutes to, wrap up your lunch or your coffee and donut, whatever you're having. Or if you're in a mall, you got 18 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it says, to basically get back to your car. Because you don't want to have your car fully charged and sitting there, taking up a charging space. Tesla will actually charge you, like 25 or 50 cents a minute penalty. So if you're 10 minutes late, you're going to get a $5 additional charge for your fill up. That's the penalty. So they want you to get the hell out of there if your car's full, because they don't want that charging spot, with a parked car there that's already full. They want you to get your car out of there. And if you don't, they're going to charge you, I think it's 50 cents a minute. That's pretty cool. That's an incentive to get yourself back to that car and get the hell out of that spot. Put it in a different spot if you want to stay in the mall. Anyway, so that's the life of charging with Tesla. Anyway, so how are we doing here? So, oops, I got to do that. So yeah, we've been live on the air here 47 minutes and 18 seconds. So I think we've had some interesting fun talking about Tesla talk and miles, and the thing to remember, it's in Florida. The kilowatt hour rate is about 9.5 cents a kilowatt. So if you add and subtract all that and calculate it, that's about 3.5 cents a mile that it costs you to drive a Tesla. With the battery and the energy, and that's assuming, and it's factual that in Florida the kilowatt hour rate is I think it's 9.4 cents a kilowatt. So when you get your electric bill, that's what it turns out to be. So anyway, so that's my story. It's now 1:15. So I'm going to get off this live air here, because I got to get into, I can't believe we moved into this apartment in October, right? Because that's when our lease was up in 801. Now we're in 812. And that move was, took 5 days. So by October 5th, we're in the new place. And we still have about 20 boxes that are unpacked in the second bedroom. But Marilyn's sister is coming down in July, and it's forcing us to complete on the unpacking or boxing of, it's all good stuff, right? I mean, it's stuff that came out of the other apartment. Now, I've gone through and thrown out a whole bunch of stuff that actually should have been trashed, but it got moved. And we're moving from a 1,250 square foot apartment to a 1,550 square foot apartment. So I actually got 300 more feet of living area. But, it's all open area in the living room and dining room. It's not really in wasted space. And we actually have a few more closets. But I don't know. It seems like our boxes are having babies. Because every time I unpack 4 or 5 boxes, I go in there and I says, my God, I still got 20 boxes. I keep on this 20 boxes. I swear they're reproducing themselves. Anyway, so I'm getting, I'm doing a pretty good job of it. So it's 3 o'clock. What is it? It's right now 1:17, according to my handy-dandy watch here. I don't know if you can see it with the reflections. So, turn the light down a little bit. Maybe we can see the watch a little bit better. So here you can see, oops, you can see. It tracks my heart rate and all this stuff. This thing's amazing. I'm 82 beats per minute. It's been as high as 67, and it's been as high as 118 and low of 67 beats per minute. It's 1:17 p.m. So that's a watch face that I like. So, the Apple Watch is constantly monitoring, all your activity with your heart, which, being a bypass survivor, I call it a bypass survivor. There are, bypass surgery is pretty serious stuff. They chill the heart and then they, connect, and oh my God, and you're on a bypass engine, that's It's amazing. So, it's, anyway, Dr. Bethay, Brian Bethay, did my surgery uh, on actually 3 days ago was my 3-year anniversary of surviving bypass surgery. They put in 4 bypasses on June 5th. It's June 9th, so it's 4 days, 3 years and 4 days into survival. And he tells me that operation was, a little better than 50-50. If you're a pessimist, that means 50% of the time you don't survive. I told my cardiologist, I said, please don't tell the rest of the family that this is a 50-50 deal. They're already worried enough. Let's try to convince them that I'm going to survive this thing, rather than have them belabor. It was a 12-hour operation. I tell you what, if I wouldn't have survived it, it would be because of the the anesthesia. Because when you're under anesthesia for 12 hours, your body gets so saturated with what I call poisons. They're poisons, because it's bringing your life signs down to such a level so that you don't wake up, and they got your chest open and all. It's amazing. They got 4 or 5 guys working inside you, for 12 hours. Holy crap, with a bypass machine and all that stuff. So they really and they're trying to get it done fast, but there's only so fast they can go. Anyway, I went in there at 7:30 in the morning, and I didn't get out of there until 7:30 at night, into the recovery area. So recovery was, oh God. I feel terrific now, but boy, I tell you what, for about 15 days, it was brutal. Trying to, because and they cut this whole thing up with a saw, and then they wire it shut with stainless steel, and it's all done from the inside, so you don't feel or see the twisties, because they're like underneath inside, and they bend it over so it doesn't interfere with your lungs and so forth. Because you don't want those twisties to cut a hole in something else in there. Okay, so I'm going to get this to an hour coming or going. Anyway, that's 3 years and 4 or 5 days. Yep, 3 years and 5 days. I used to celebrate every month. This is, post 1 month, 2 month, 3 month. Actually, after the first month, I actually felt really good. Because, when you have the bypass surgery, now all of a sudden the circulation is working really good, feeding all your organs, and everything kind of works better when the pump is working good. And the heart isn't working efficiently. So I'm running, about 87% efficiency, which is unbelievable. Before the bypass, I was running around 30% efficiency in the heart. With the bypass, it put me over 80%, which is like, for a person my age, 103. Anyway, I feel pretty good. So I'm looking forward to getting out on the bikes. So we have a Tesla with a trailer hitch, $1,000 trailer hitch package that's, bolted into the car somehow. And with that, you can buy a thing that you can plug into this trailer hitch that has 2 to hold our bikes, so that we can take our bikes on the back of the Tesla and go drive to some nice park or something or other, and then ride around the park instead of just riding around, inside of the city limits of Boca, which is okay, but you're kind of dealing with traffic and everything, so it'd be nice to find a nice spot to ride without having to ride into cars or be away, watch out for cars. which is fine. I mean, these bikes are real big, heavy-duty bikes, and they are electric driven. So you can set you got a thing on the handlebar, and you can set it so that it's a 20% electric and 80% foot power, and it manages that somehow with sensors. So you can set it at 20%, 30%, 40%, 80%, and 100%. So you can ride the bike with your left and right hand and not move your pedals at all, and it'll ride. It'll go 30 miles, on a charge, and you don't have to pedal at all. And if you got the pedal set for like 20 or 30%, you can get up to 60 miles of range with the battery. So I run it, like 20%. So it gives me 20% assistance when I'm pedaling. But, you got a hand throttle over here on the right hand. You can just throttle that thing, and it'll pick up speed real fast. So when you stopped and you have your feet down, and you know how it is when you start up on a bike, then you got to put your foot on that pedal to get up to speed. So, you have your balance with the gyroscopic activity of the wheels. So, but with the electric bike, you can just like pick your feet up a little bit and just throttle that sucker right up to speed, put your feet on the pedals, and you don't have that incredible energy that you got to put into getting the bike going. So it's really quite nice, the electric assist bicycle. And if you didn't know any better, you look at this bike, you would have no idea that it's actually an electric assisted bike, because the battery goes up the column. You're kind of like sitting on top of the battery, and it's a long, skinny thing. I'll show you one day. Okay, so that's why we got the trailer hitch. We're going to be in a car in 47 hours. We're going to have a Tesla. Because that's afternoon, 46 hours and 35 minutes. And on that happy note, we'll finish up with Epicurious and crank that up for about 30 seconds. And I'll turn down the microphone so you don't have to hear me breathing. And you have a great afternoon. And I'm going to be in bedroom number 2 boxing up the rest of or a portion of our stuff. Okay. Have a great day.